Alright guys, welcome to a video on the Atago. This was my first premium ship I ever got in this game, and it's still one of my favorites, even though I don't play it very much. This ship is unique in that it gets a heal as a cruiser at tier 8, which allows you to play quite aggressively. And that's how I really enjoy playing it. It has an amazing concealment. The torpedo angles, as you can see, are pretty solid here. And in fact, if you do widespreads, you can even get the angles to be even a little bit better if you're up close with someone and really needing to get your torps off at a better angle. The other nice things about this ship is it has a 41mm deck, which is the highest out of all of the Japanese cruisers. And what that allows you to do is actually bounce even Yamato and Shikishima guns at longer ranges when you're angled. Because they'll be plunging down and they won't be hitting your belt armor as much. They'll be hitting your deck. And because of that armor, you actually can bounce a lot of battleship shells. And that makes this ship pretty good in tier 10 even. And the concealment plus the heal, all that stuff, it really allows you to survive for a long time in tier 10 games. This game, however, is not a tier 10 game. It's just a standard tier 8 battle, which is really nice. As you can see, I'm using expert loader on this captain because the AP is no joke. I kind of don't lead this guy enough here, unfortunately, but these shells are really good. They can Citadel cruisers at pretty long ranges, and the high explosive is amazing on this ship. I tend to like the way this ship plays compared to a lot of other cruisers due to the longer reload but higher alpha strike shells. It allows you to angle and then swing out your guns to shoot and then re-angle again while you're reloading. You're gonna see me do that in a little bit here when I push down the one line. But it allows you to stay quite tanky. A lot of the cruisers with high fire rates can't do this whole swinging, angling thing while keeping their maximum DPM on a target. Whereas Atago, with its slow reload, high alpha strike, it allows this ship to actually have really good, solid damage over time. Not the best, obviously, because the reload's slow, but the damage is no joke just because the high alpha strike and the really high fire chance. But you're actually so tanky because you're just constantly angling in or away from people. And you only swing out once every 16 seconds or so when your guns are reloaded. As you can see, we're making use of the concealment to push down this flank. We know the Azashio's in B right now, so we have free reign to push here, which is pretty cool. Atago thrives on flanks, as you can see here. We're pushing all the way down the flank, and if people ignore you, you can do some pretty crazy damage in a pretty short amount of time. As you can see, we even outspot things like Mogami. Our detection won't reset since we're just shooting, but you'll see a little bit later on here that if you stay in that 10 to 13 kilometer range from ships, that's kind of your sweet spot because you can go dark and maneuver and turn whenever you want to, but you're also close enough that it's pretty easy to land the majority of your shells on a ship. Yeah, so back to the high explosive alpha damage. That was nearly a 6,000 damage salvo on that Massachusetts. And that's coming every 16 seconds or so, which is pretty crazy. And, I mean, it's Hipper AP, so it's not the most amazing, but we're bouncing a lot of that as well. And, yeah, I really just enjoy this ship. It's quite maneuverable. Not the most maneuverable, obviously, but its rudder shift is decent enough that you can dodge a lot of shells, especially at longer ranges. And if you run propulsion mod like I do, you can speed juke reasonably well. Not to the level where you know, cruisers like Henry with its speed boost is probably a little bit better still, but it ain't bad at all. As you can see, The This ship has some of the best detectability at its tier as far as cruisers go, and it just allows you to get away with stuff that you really shouldn't. Like, I'm getting really, really close to these guys, and I could turn away at any time and be safe. Because as you can see, we just went dark at 10 kilometers away from an enemy battleship. So we could even torp him and do all these different things. You can stealth torp in this ship. It used to be able to even stealth fire, if anybody remembers that mechanic, where you could shoot without being spotted at a certain range. I think it was only like a half a kilometer window, but it was pretty funny when that was available. Now this Tirpitz, I assume, was AFK, but he ends up waking up at a pretty awkward time. But because this ship has an upper belt of 27 millimeters or 28 millimeters, I believe, it can bounce up to 380 millimeter guns. So if we angle properly, he can only overmatch my nose. So this ship's actually quite tough to deal with for lower caliber battleships. And so he does hit me a little bit in the nose and a little bit in the superstructure, but we're bouncing a lot of stuff here. And as you can see, our damage is already up to 60k, and you know, 4 fires is not amazing, but the fire chance on this ship is actually really good as well. Now we're going to end up going dark again, just because we don't really want to shoot in the Atago when all your guns aren't online. A gimmick of this ship is its turret layout, I think. It is a lot better for kiting away due to 3 of the turrets pointing backwards compared to most ships where all the front guns would be pointing forwards. The back front gun, or the one closest to the superstructure, actually turns around looking backwards. So it's really good for kiting because you can get all of your guns off, you can get 3 of your 5 turrets off at all times, and if you're just wiggling back and forth, which is pretty nice. It does limit you a bit when you're pushing in, but as you can see, the turret angles aren't bad, especially if you're constantly wiggling back and forth to get your angling. So Atago, I like to play it like this, along the flanks, pushing or kiting. That's kind of where it's best. It's not the most amazing ship for straight up fighting in the middle of the map. I do enjoy it more on the flanks of things, and with its concealment, you can even get into some capture zones depending on the way the game goes. Especially if there's no destroyers in a game, you're actually one of the stealthiest ships in the game then, and you can do some pretty funny things trying to cap zones out. As you can see, I'm running Hydro, and fighter plane's your only option. You don't have access to a spotter plane on this ship. But Hydro is just better right now because Atago AA is historically been terrible, and it's no different now that the CV rework has happened. It's gotten even worse, in fact. So just using, the 50% buff of defensive fire is not gonna help you that much at all. As you can see, pretty solid accuracy as well from these guns. They do fire slowly, and their arcs aren't very good, but they're very accurate and they deal a lot of damage. This ship I find to be a very skill-based ship, because if you just sit broadside, you will be punished. The Citadel does raise above water in the middle of the ship pretty high, so if you give too much side, you will get punished by battleships or even cruisers. But it's a good fun ship to play because you don't feel really weak against anything. You're pretty strong against battleships. You're very strong against other cruisers, especially at your tier. Despite having a little bit lower DPM, the heal makes up for that a lot. As you can see, we can heal up to 7,000 HP per heal, so we get 4 of those. So that means that we can heal up to 29,000 extra health. And for a tier 8, that's pretty insane to be able to have over 60,000 HP total. Compared to a lot of the other tier 8s, which have, some of them have like 36, 35,000 total HP without a heal. And so that's why Atago just feels better to play in against tier 10s. It can hold its own a little bit better. As you can see, we're bouncing Richelieu shells. He got some pens through my superstructure, or overpens, but against a Richelieu, we're not terribly scared due to our upper belt now being 28 millimeters. Yeah, this has always been one of my favorite ships, simply because it's just so relaxing to play. You're not constantly clicking your mouse, but you're also not waiting so long as a battleship salvo. And due to the good concealment, maneuverability, all that, and reliable high explosive, you're never feeling like you're getting out RNG'd by someone like in a battleship sometimes. It always feels like you did well because of your skill, or you did poorly because of your lack of skill. That's how Atago feels to me. And as you know, I do enjoy that when you're rewarded for playing well. I think this ship has kind of been power crept a little bit by some of the cruisers sometimes. Ships like the Mayans and that has like insane gun damage per minute, and some other cruisers have some pretty insane armor compared to Atago, but realistically, this is probably one of my favorite cruisers to play in the game. Tier 8 is definitely my favorite tier to play, and Atago is the cruiser that I want to play when I do want to play a tier 8 cruiser. I guess one thing I'm going to talk about here, just as the video is wrapping up, the new captain skills just got announced that are in super test or work in progress. And I was thinking about doing a video on them, but I don't know if it's worth it to do something on something that is potential to change, as Wargaming like to say. So let's just say I'm not super excited about a lot of the skills. It feels like they're trying to kind of just destroy secondary brawling battleships with the nerfing of their accuracy. Sure, they're giving them some skills that for cheaper that allow the guns to get to longer ranges for cheaper, and they're allowing you with manual secondaries to shoot from both sides, but manual secondaries only does 35% now instead of 60, which is a pretty big difference. So I guess it'll remain to be seen what it's like once we get to test it out, but I'm not too hopeful because the problem with secondaries has never really been getting the skills, for me at least. The problem with secondaries has always been their inaccuracy. And that's why Ohio, Massachusetts, Georgia secondaries are some of the best in the game. Despite not being able to pen very much armor, they're just so good because they hit so often. And I guess with this update, Wargaming wants to make secondaries worse, but more accessible to people so that the skills don't cost nearly as much. So I don't know. I don't know really what to think. It seems like they're just trying to make a lot of skills that enforce sniping gameplay, like some of the skills that give you better accuracy when nobody's in your detect range, that kind of stuff. So it's not really going in the way I want, which is a more brawling, skill-focused meta. It's kind of like it's going to be even more sniping. At least that's my initial reaction. So yeah, pretty solid game here in the Atago. I had a lot of fun with it, so, and I hope you enjoy your Atago if you have it. And so yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and have a good day.